7, The Parent Trap. We're getting back at it this morning. A little gloomy outside, but it's okay. Hopefully you guys can catch the sunrise with me and we can get this day started. Today we're just going to be talking about and analyzing the ABC strategies and the ABC data that I took last week or 2 weeks ago due to that bonus episode I kind of added for you guys. We'll be kind of taking a deeper dive into that, analyzing it, seeing how it fits. We're going to make it make sense today. That's going to be my motto. I'm going to use, like I said, layman's terms like I always do to make it simple for you guys, while also going through the examples that I gave for you guys at the party that I went to 2 weeks ago with my friends and some family members there as well too. So hope you guys are ready. Hope you guys got your pen and paper, have your ABC data sheet that you maybe have or that you've been taking, and we can jump into this together. So the first one I'm going to talk about is we're going to work through the initial sheet. And so some of these have been, these stories have been fabricated. I'll let you decide if they are or are not true, and we could kind of just take it from there. We have our sheets, and hopefully, like I said, we can analyze what you guys did and the data you took maybe yesterday or last weekend or the week before, and we can kind of, like I said, make it make sense today. So you see 5 examples here that I have outlined for you guys. And like I said, once again, those antecedents are what happened before the behavior. The behavior is what we're tracking, and the consequences how we respond to those behaviors. So on our left side, on our antecedents, these are all the situations that occurred prior to the behavior happening. And so we can see that out of the 5, mom told children it was time to go home. So we're transitioning from a preferred item. Son asked for more cupcakes, and I denied access and told him no. So we're denying access to cupcakes. Someone else was playing with Sutton's toys. So maybe another one, I don't want that person to play with my toys. Beckett saw Uncle Mike, in which he liked to wrestle and play fight. So I was an initial trigger to one of my nephews that I saw that was in the home. And then the last one was a birthday party celebration. There was alcohol in the cooler. So with all these antecedents, these are triggers. These are events prior to the behavior happening, which kind of sets things in motion, right? So I want you guys to think of antecedents as triggers. So what was the linchpin to that behavior, or what put that behavior into motion? What was the thing that kind of lit the flame to get that behavior going, the momentum going? What was the kind of signifier that started a chain of events, right? And so your antecedents are all going to be on the left-hand side, and I just read those out for you. And then we're going to jump into the behaviors. The behaviors, of course, after mom told the child it was time to go home, they tantrumed. After Sutton asked for more cupcakes and was denied access, he was vocally protesting, yelling, and screaming. Someone else was playing with his toys as well, so Sutton hit the other kid. Beckett saw Uncle Mike and he liked to wrestle, and so that triggered him to start play fighting with Uncle Mike. The birthday party celebration, there was alcohol in the cooler, so Spencer drank too much that evening and ended up throwing up. So those are the behaviors that were created by those antecedents, right? And so that the trigger of I'm drawing a blank here. These events are compounded, right? So the antecedent was the trigger, the behaviors occurred, and now we're going to jump over to the consequences of those situations. So after mom told the child it was time to go home from the park, the child tantrum, and mom followed through. So she put the behavior on extinction. And I think I talked about that last episode, but when we put the behavior on extinction, not the child, then we're going to follow through with the initial demand that we placed. And so as the family continued to pack up and guided the child back to the car, the kiddo could have been yelling, screaming, flailing, dropping to the ground, screaming, whatever is going on. Mom or dad or the family still packed up their stuff, and if they had to physically assist the child back to the car, then that's what they did. The second example, Sutton asked for more cupcakes, vocally protest, yelling and screaming, another escape extinction. I followed through with a no, even though he kept crying and screaming. So we're still not giving in to the behavior, even though the behavior is excessive, even though it's loud, even though it could be embarrassing. We're still going to hold firm to what we said as the antecedent, or what we said prior to the behavior happening. The next one, someone else was playing with Sutton's toys, so Sutton hit the other kid. He was verbally redirected that if he were to hit again, the toy would be removed. And so now we'll jump into here in the next scene. Now we know that parents redirected him and also gave them a warning if it were to occur again in the future, right? And as I mentioned, consequences affect future behavior. So a consequence wasn't exactly given here, but it was a warning to what was to come if that behavior were to persist. And I'll jump into that here in a little bit later. Beckett saw Uncle Mike. He started play fighting. And subsequently, he was put into an arm bar and asked to be released, right? And so that consequence right there hopefully would decrease the likelihood of him play fighting because of the introduction of pain. And so we'll get into that, like I said, here in a second. And then the next consequence that we see, birthday party celebration, there was alcohol in the cooler. Spencer drank too much evening and threw up. The consequence to that was a hangover or a headache or nauseousness. And so that's a natural consequence, right? And I spoke of natural consequences the past 2 episodes. So hopefully that natural consequence has taught Spencer a lesson, but we'll see in the future how that comes to play. So we'll jump into the second one. And so you notice the difference between the first page and the second page is that we have replacement behaviors. So with these replacement behaviors, these are the behaviors that we want instead of those negative behaviors, right? And so we want to switch them out. We want to substitute them. So we want the replacement behaviors to go in place of those negative behaviors, which would then turn the whole situation into a positive one. And so right here on the next page, you guys can see the replacement behaviors. I think I labeled it on your right hand side. And so replacement behaviors are what is a more socially appropriate behavior in that situation. And so by giving more appropriate replacement behaviors, by substituting what we could have done or what we should have done instead of those negative behaviors, we can start teaching our kids, we can start teaching ourselves, we can start working on different situations where, okay, this is how we want our child to react, this is how we want our significant others to react. So let's swap it. Let's do a switch here and put the replacement before, or prime them or give them a transition before the behavior occurs, so we can substitute and input that replacement behavior instead. And so here are some of the replacement behaviors, and they go in order like you guys see on the chart here. So a replacement behavior is the child can ask for more time. Hey mom, can I have 5 more minutes, please, before we just kind of get up and go? The second one, Sutton could have tolerated denial or even asked for an alternative, right? So if it was, okay, mom, or okay, Mike, Uncle Mike, instead of a cupcake, can I have, a pizza? Or I think we had chicken wings there. So is that, okay, yeah, man, you can have some more pizza, that's fine, but still no more cupcakes. Another replacement behavior going down the list, Sutton could have asked the kid, hey, can I have my toy back? Or hey, don't play with that, that's my toy. Right? And so that's a replacement behavior that we could have inserted prior to him hitting the child. The next thing, Becca could have asked Uncle Mike, hey, let's fight, or I'm ready, let's do this. Instead, I wouldn't have been so tough on him, or putting him in that arm bar. I mean, he still would have got it, but it would have been less intense or severe instead of him kind of just sneaking up on me. The next one, replacement behavior is, drink water in between beverages, or take the appropriate pre-hangover medication, right? So we see the commercials out there, drink water responsibly or drink alcohol responsibly, where we see the person drinking water in between beers or in between, alcoholic beverages. So, right, that's a replacement behavior. So if we get enough fluids, if we take the proper, charcoal pills or pre-medication, pre-hangover medication, then we're less likely to be hungover, nauseous, having a headache in the future, right? And so those are the replacement behaviors before each of the scenarios that I listed. And then the last page here is just going to show the substitute of how that looks, right? And so I'll run through that, and then we'll see how the change is actually made in real life situations in that specific scenario. So antecedents, they never change. but everything else does change after that. So instead of the negative behavior, we're substituting the replacement behavior, right? So as mom told the child it was time to go home, the child then asked for 5 more minutes. The mom said, hey, sure, yeah, you can play for 5 more minutes. And so that decreases the likelihood of a tantrum or episode happening in the future, because now the child knows all I have to do is ask for more time. Hopefully this generalizes to in home, at school, wherever this child is at in this scenario, he can always ask for more. Of course, you're not going to always get more time, but you have that skill now to ask for more time. Okay, so I know when we teach this skill kind of in ABA, during ABA sessions, kiddos love it, right? Because they're like, oh, more time. And we're like, all right, 2 more minutes, you have to start your homework. The 2-minute timer goes off. All right, can I have more time? And we're like, all right, 1 more minute. And then that 3rd time, they're like, can I have more time? And we're like, nope, time to start homework. And they're like, oh my God, and they get upset, right? So more time doesn't last forever. We can tell you no on the 1st time, right? But we still want to give you the skills to ask for more time. We still want you to understand that you have the language to ask for more time instead of tantruming, yelling, falling to the floor, making a big scene. Just ask for it. That's an appropriate or functional communication training that we teach to use instead of engaging in those negative behaviors. So we can see in this first scenario here, if the child can simply ask for more time, then, mom or dad is going to grant access. But of course, after that 5 minutes is over, or after another 5 minutes is over, then eventually we're going to have to get in the car and we're going to have to go. So of course, it might be prolonged in the beginning, but as you, and I don't want to be too dorky here, but as you decrease or thin the schedule of reinforcement, so that means after you're granting access for more time the 1st time, maybe the 2nd time, maybe the 3rd time, and then you're going to start saying no, and then you're going to start saying no. We have to go right now, or so every other time maybe you say no. So by having a various schedule of reinforcement, it will help the child understand that you won't always get your way. Yes, you can ask for more time, but you're not going to always get it. And if you do get it, of course, hey, be happy, be merry, continue with what you were doing. But if I say 5 more minutes and the 5 minutes is up and you don't get another access to more time, then it's time to transition, it's time to go, which they still might engage in tantrum or negative behavior, but then we go back to the consequences that we provided in the first page. The second one, so son asking for more cupcakes. He tolerates the denial or asks for alternatives. So we accept that son accepts that we say no, and he receives pretzels as an alternative. I know I mentioned pizza or chicken, the other one, but here I wrote down pretzels. So, okay, so yeah, I didn't get what I really wanted, but I still got something. I still got my pretzels. So I'm tolerating Uncle Mike telling me no, but now I'm still getting, pretzels. Now I'm still getting something that, it's better than nothing, right? And like I said, my mom used to do ABA back in the 90s where, it was, okay, no, you can't have access to your Xbox. You can't have, Xbox wasn't even out then. So your GameCube, your Dreamcast, I forgot what other system I had, but she was like, no, I didn't, my grades were bad, or I did something, some typical teenager would do that was negative. And she was like, all right, yeah, can't have your Dreamcast for the day, but you can go outside and go play with Edward. You can go outside, ride your bike. You can watch TV with me if you want, which was punishment in itself, because I'm sure I didn't like what she was watching. I'm sure it was probably Wheel of Fortune or something like that. But she was like, okay, you can't have access to your highest reinforcement. You can't have access to that, but you can have these alternatives. And so as much as I thought my world was gone or that everything was ruined, I was still able to access time with something else, whether it was outside with my friends or whether it was watching TV with her or reading a book or something else. There was always alternatives given after we take something away in that situation. And so that's what that would look like, and that's how that looked like in Sutton's situation as well. Also, again, if someone was playing with Sutton's toys, and Sutton was like, hey, can I have my toy back? Or don't play with that, please, then simply enough, hopefully in the perfect world, the kid returns the toy back to Sutton, or they move on to another toy, right? And so by substituting that, Sutton using functional communication of saying, hey, that's my toy, don't play with it, or can I have my toy back? We eliminate, hopefully in the future episode where he is hitting or aggressing towards another kid. right? And so simply plugging in that replacement behavior decreases the likelihood of that negative behavior in the future. The next one, Becca saw Uncle Mike. Becca could have said, hey, Uncle Mike, let's fight. And like I mentioned a few minutes ago, it would have been less painful for him at the end because it was not surprising and it was more structured, right? So we're actually prepping for it. He didn't sneak behind me and jump on my back, right? It was more of, okay, like I'm going to give him a little bit, act like I'm not as strong as I am, and then pin him down, right? And so with those little kind of little replacements, right, we can adjust how the consequences are in the future. And so I still would have put him in an armbar like I mentioned, but it probably would have taken a little bit longer. We would have had a little bit more fun than kind of the immediate reaction of when he jumped on my back. And then the last one here, we have birthday party celebration, alcohol in the cooler, drinking water in between beverages, or taking appropriate pre-hangover medication equals no hangover. Right? So in a perfect world, like I said, once again, if we're taking our charcoal pills, if we have the liquid IVs, if we have all the stuff that we need prior to having a joyful time with alcoholic beverages, then we're less likely to have a hangover. We're less likely to maybe throw up. We're less likely to have all those symptoms post-alcoholic beverages. Right? And so, like I said, guys, this was just a real life kind of run through on that ABC data. I gave you guys some situations where specifically with Sutton, specifically with the top three that happened probably with you or your children, right? So within our ABA sessions, we tell our kiddos no, we tell them it's time to go, we tell them it's time to clean up, it's time to start a non-preferred task, we tell them anything and a behavior occurs, right? And so now we have the skills to and analysis to put the replacement behavior in place now, or drop it in there prior to the behavior occurring, so we can affect the future outcome of those positive and negative behaviors, right? And so because we put the replacement behaviors, as we did in the very last sheet, that whole negative behavior turns all the way into a positive one, right? And so because the replacement behavior increases my functional communication, it's going to decrease hopefully the occurrences of the negative behaviors in the future. Because if tantruming isn't working, if tolerating denial isn't working, if let's see what else, if the hangovers and nauseousness isn't working, right, then the replacement behaviors are going to have to go into there for things to work responsibly, or for things to work in the appropriate manner in a socially appropriate setting. Right? And so by substituting those replacement behaviors is going to affect future behavior, creating the whole trend from a negative one to a positive one. So hopefully today made sense. I tried to, like I say, put in some real life events, some factual, some maybe fabricated. But like I said, I'll let you guys figure that out. And take this over to your ABC data, or take this over to next week, or the end of this week on to next week forever. Because ABA, like I said, is a life hack. And so we can use these strategies with our coworkers. We can use this with our children, our significant others. We can use it, like I said, I've trained my dog with it as well too, right? And so I want you guys to really look at these replacement behaviors, because without alternatives or without replacements, then we don't really know how to target that negative behavior. If there's no functional equivalence to that negative behavior, then there's no replacement behavior that's going to work with it. And so we have to figure out, okay, how can we put our children in situations to succeed? And so by giving them that replacement behavior, instead, they're going to succeed. They just have to swap the way they're doing it. They have to get rid of the negative one and input those positive or replacement behaviors. So definitely check your data out. Look more into that this week. Start thinking about little ways you can modify or adjust your schedule, or adjust how you're responding to things, and how we're priming, or how we're using PREMAC principle to get our children to display more socially appropriate behaviors in that specific setting. I think that's it. I feel like I have a little bit more to say. I'm trying to see if it's gonna come to me. I don't think it is. But yeah, like, comment, share. If you guys have any questions, leave it in the comments. Let me know what's going on. Let me know if this was working for you guys. And then, like I said, the next episode is all cumulative. So we're going to piggyback. Oh, that's what I was going to say. So this ABC data is our foundation. So without the ABC data, we don't know what's going on. We don't know frequencies. We don't know duration. We don't know anything. So your ABC data is super important because it's going to tell not only you, but your clinical team, if you are starting services, on the direction of things. We know that these are the triggers. We know that this is how you guys usually respond. And now we have to modify or adjust this behavior to be more socially appropriate. So the ABC data is essential to the process. Without that ABC information, without being able to write it down and see it, we might not be able to discover a pattern. Right? So if we notice that, hey, at 2 o'clock, right after he gets out of school, he's very upset, he's very irritable because he hasn't eaten, then okay, next week, maybe at 1:45, let's put a snack in there so we can avoid that tantrum when he gets home, or we can avoid that vocal protest or those negative statements towards parents when he gets home. Let's see if that works. And like I said, it's trial and error. So if that doesn't work, okay, cool. Let's have the snack ready for him when he gets off the bus, and see if that maybe is a little bit more impactful, or maybe it's a little bit more successful. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, hey, we're going to go back to the drawing board and try again. But I can't stress enough the importance of the ABC data. You want to get it down. You want to write it out. You want to see it so it's visible, right? It's tangible. We call it a permanent product, right? It's something that we can go back to. We can see the triggers. We can see the behaviors. We can see the outcomes. And so by laying it out for yourself, for you and your husband, or if you're a single mother, laying it out, single father, laying it out for yourselves, you'll be able to see that pattern. You'll be able to kind of analyze and swap and switch and see where these adjustments can be made, which ultimately is going to create a more socially appropriate environment, a more enjoyable environment, and an environment that, we're swapping out the negative with the positive, which is always going to be a good time and is always going to be a good situation. Right. And so I appreciate it. Thank you guys for today.